Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 14th day. A lot of breaking news late here this afternoon in the NFL. Wanting to comment on Matthew Judon, the edge rusher there for the New England Patriots, was traded just about a little over an hour and a half ago to the Atlanta Falcons. Going to comment on that. Also, Jamar Chase has kind of been an overlooked story, but leading receiver for Cincinnati Bengals, he's been holding out. They want to call it a hold in. He's not practicing. He's present at practice, but he's not practicing. So he's holding out, but he's not. Going to talk about that story out of Cincinnati. Also, Hard Knocks got some notes and thoughts of episode 2 of the Bears Hard Knocks. A few thoughts on Caleb Williams and his performance, and Russell Wilson will be back. Supposedly he's going to make his debut this weekend for the Steelers. Just news on top of news on top of news. And last but not least, kudos to Kirk Herbstreit. I'll explain that a little bit later in the program. But first, stand by. I'll have a few announcements. I'll be back here in a little bit, and we will hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
Above. If you don't have Roku TV, you have to order a Roku device from the Roku store, hook it up to your smart TV, and bang, you have Roku TV. Again, channel search, National Streaming Sports, click on our NESSP logo, and add the channel.
All righty then, everybody. Okay, we'll start off with the breaking news. Just happened about an hour and a half ago, give or take. Best pass rusher on the New England Patriots, Matthew Judon. For those of you who hadn't been really paying attention, there was a little bit of a like a shouting match, a lot of tension there from what I read over. One particular incident was talked about and reported on between Gerard Mayo, that's the head coach there of the Patriots now, and Judon. Judon wants some money. He's kind of got an issue like Hassan Reddick. Happy birthday in advance. Judon will be 32 tomorrow. Okay, so he didn't play that many games, 4 games, 4 sacks last year, but in 22, 15 and a half sacks for Matthew Judon. The Atlanta Falcons look to have a very good offensive line. Did not get Dallas Turner like most, or Latatupu. The guy out of, I think he was out of USC, or Turner there, out of Alabama. Did not get him with that 8th pick in the NFL draft. Instead, they went with Michael Penix, the quarterback out of Washington, and they still needed a pass rusher. Currently, they wasn't that bad last year. 11th in total yards. 11th in total yards. That will help that Atlanta defense, particularly at home. Grady Jarrett now. Judon's already. I looked at their depth chart, and it looks like he's already listed as a starter there with the weak side linebacker Matthew Judon, left side defensive end Grady Jarrett there. Okay, so look to have. I mean, they're not going to be all world, but this will help their defense here. Right now, it looks like I would give them the edge. I'm not officially calling a prediction, but I would probably give them the edge to win the NFC South this year, in my opinion. That being said, I would probably give the edge to the Patriots. The Patriots, led by, I want to say this guy, he's the son, go figure, son of Ron Wolf. I think his name is Nick Wolf or whatever. Might as well be Teen Wolf, right? Anyways, he is comes from the Wolf family who Ron Wolf, who ran the Packers back in the early 90s with the Brett Favre era there, won the Super Bowl there, him and Reggie White and everybody. Really good eye for talent. But his son now runs the Patriots, basically the general manager there. Getting a third-round pick for a 32-year-old player like that, that's not a bad pick. Say in comparison to a Tennessee Titans trading a 2025 third-round pick for a player of like a L'Jarius Sneed, an all-pro player in his 20s, in his prime, coming into a second contract there, the cornerback out of Kansas City. So these guys get a third-round pick from a guy 32 years old. Not a bad play for a team that is rebuilding. Now, my opinion after that horrendous, I do mean horrendous, opening press conference. Don't have a lot of respect or faith in Gerard Mayo. He was a great player as a college player with Tennessee. Those racial comments he made really rubbed me the wrong way. Also tells me a little bit about his judgment, and he's from the defensive side of the ball. A lot of strikes against him. That being said, management-wise, they've got some more ammo, possibly to come back and at a San Francisco team and maybe up the ante there. Possibly talking Brandon Ayuk into coming, but I doubt that happens. And Ayuk don't want to play for him. He knows they're going to be a disaster. Okay. And that's another story in its own. So it feels like right now you give the edge to Atlanta for a season, but long-term wise, the third-round pick, you want to give the edge to a New England per se. Okay. Now if they can just get their head coach right, go out and get an offensive-minded guy and get that self-proclaimed victim there, Gerard Mayo, out of there. Okay. So we'll see what happens. We shall see. Owuku Saki. All right. And hopefully Mayo will get it together, realize what he did was an idiotic comments about the whole racial thing, and he'll let it be, and more power to him. I kind of felt it just bothered me. I probably shouldn't have came out that cold and callous, but I'm just so sick and tired of people using that for their own benefit. These politicians are into that, and now these, you hear ESPN and media personality. Now you got sports people wanting to say that, but I don't know. That was January. I'm moved on. Other big news. I mentioned this yesterday. J.J. McCarthy has had his surgery, torn meniscus in his knee. Now they're saying he's going to be out for the entire season. I didn't even put that in the title. So much stuff going on. I kind of got flustered there. But J.J. McCarthy will be out for the entire season. Listen, folks, the truth be told, the data doesn't lie. Patrick Mahomes sat out a year. Okay. Patrick Mahomes set out a year. Jordan Love set out 3 years. Aaron Rodgers set out 3 years. I just think more and more often than not, you really would like to see a quarterback set out a year and just get a good understanding of a regular season. It's hard to simulate this stuff in the preseason and practice. I mean, you don't even hit the quarterback in practice, for crying out loud. They got the red jersey on, right, Pickles? For him to simply go through a regular season, go through the game plans, go through the meeting rooms, get live action on the sideline, listen to it, the headset, just get a good idea of the way everything is being played out. I know it's worked out where guys have played. I just mentioned this last week about Peyton Manning through some ridiculous 28 interceptions or something like that is his rookie year. Came out to be Peyton Manning, got it all out of his system, and he got his timing down. And we know what Peyton, he turned out to be a Hall of Famer, 2-time Super Bowl winner there in Manning. But, letting a guy sit a year, just really learning under the head coach, which is an offensive mind, Kevin O'Connell, who I really am a big fan of that coach. I love his schemes and whatnot. Look what he did with a lot of backup. Remember, he brought in Josh Dobbs with just a few practices and beat Atlanta on the road. And that's probably one of the reasons why Atlanta lost their head coach, Arthur Smith. But O'Connell says, Donna Rossini's reporting, Kevin O'Connell told her that he believes the Minnesota has found their franchise quarterback. He was having a good camp, per se, J.J. McCarthy, according to Kevin O'Connell. But they're saying Sam Darnold is having a great camp there, per se. She says, while McCarthy's season-ending injury, torn meniscus, is heartbreaking, Minnesota head coach says he will sleep well at night knowing that the Vikings found their franchise quarterback. According to Diana Rossini, I've got a lot of respect for Diana. I think she's really good and spot on with her reporting there. He did have a pretty good opening preseason game. I mentioned that yesterday. Now, the flip side is Sam Darnold. Could he win Comeback Player of the Year? I'm not so sure of that. A guy on the X app asked me, he's a fantasy football guy, what do I think about drafting a guy like a Justin Jefferson early in the draft if I were drafting fantasy? And my answer to him is I still believe in Kevin O'Connell's schemes, the ability to get players open. The franchise just gave him a lot of money, Jefferson, $34-something million, most in the NFL. Ownership, they're going to want to see him get the football because he wants to see Justin Jefferson's jerseys all over the place. Plus, Brian Flores done a really, really good job. There of keeping that defense coached up. Big difference from the year before last to last year. So we'll see how it works out for Darnold. My only issue with Sam Darnold, and I mentioned this talking about the Titans quarterback, Will Levis. He used to be a linebacker. That's his problem. Sam Darnold played linebacker in high school. Then he changed over to quarterback and then went to USC and had a pretty decent career there. And we know what happened after that. So he still kind of have that linebacker mentality instead of a quarterback mentality, which is, you've got to protect yourself. You got to slide. You cannot dive in that end zone head first. He's had concussions and whatnot and got himself hurt over the years. We'll have to see if O'Connell can coach that out of him. If anybody can coach that out of him, is Kevin O'Connell. But Pickle says most NFL teams can't afford to sit a year. win now league. But that's the problem. That's why there's a lot of turnover in the league. And the teams that are patient with coaches and quarterbacks, those are the teams that seem to win more long term. Your Steelers of the world, your Green Bay Packers of the world, instead of your rotating coaches and players, your Jets of the world, and before here recently, your Cleveland Browns of the world. They don't have any patience, and they just spend money like drunken sailors, in my opinion. And that's why you kind of see the same teams in the draft every single year. Although some teams have gotten better. Who would have thought Detroit would be what they are? There is hope. I mean, if Cleveland can make the playoffs they did last year, and Detroit got to the NFC Championship last year. And by the way, I did hear that Jamar Gibbs, by the way, is going to be okay, but they're going to be very careful. Speaking of Detroit, he got a little banged up. There was a big concern about him. They've already lost their kicker. If you're going to have injuries, you want to get it taken care of now and not when the season started. So, but anyways, but we'll see. We'll see if that is true about McCarthy. I think O'Connell's telling the truth, but he gets a sit. He's got a torn meniscus. It's a moot point at this point, as far as that is concerned. Okay, so we got that taken care of. Last night, Hard Knocks came on. Caleb Williams. No, he wasn't perfect. Part of me thinks they're almost a little too ginger with him in training camp. Now, I'd like for him to sit, but in their situation, that the coach is on the hot seat in Chicago, But ideally, if I'm the owner of the Bears, I'd kind of like to see him sit this year and go out and sign a veteran like I'm just using Andy Dalton as an example. An Andy Dalton type of player, someone in there of his skill set, or Baker Mayfield's skill set, a bridge quarterback, maybe even a Ryan Tannehill, who was a free agent, and let Williams sit under those guys and learn like that. That being said, they've only played him. I think he played 2 possessions, I want to say. Saturday, I'm sure they're going to up his ante there. Nice little 42-year-old dump-off pass there to DeAndre Swift there, thinking on his feet. He's already starting to run a little bit more than I like. But Caleb Williams did. They showed it in the Hard Knocks episode 1, where the quarterbacks actually went to a slip and slide. They actually had a kid slip and slide out on the field and showed the quarterbacks. All the quarterbacks had to go slide on the slides, like all 4 quarterbacks or whatever. And he did a good job, and he did the slide in the game. So I thought that was pretty cool. He did that in the Buffalo game in the little bit of time that he did get to play, and I thought that was pretty funny. Rome Odunze, not having a bad camp at all, but I will say this, as I told you all and predicted from the get-go, and this is what it looks like right now for the Bears, is DJ Moore is going to be the number 1. Jaylen Brown, by the way, their cornerback, did they just re-up for a lot of money? Keenan Allen, this is Keenan Allen's word, not mine, has not caught a pass in camp against Jaylen Brown. Brown is playing that good at the cornerback position, but just watching the elite route running ability of a DJ Moore, who they just re-upped in his prime there, he's the real deal, Holyfield. It looks like Odunze, he's just a tick off with Odunze, who's also a rookie. Remember, he was the number 9th pick overall. Here's a quote from Odunze talking to a couple of high school players at the end of practice, giving them a little bit of advice about preparation. Really liked the way he played last year. Rookie out of Washington. He just had an excellent season. Ended up making it to the national championship game, him and Michael Penix. Here's the number 9th overall pick. Talking to some kids, giving us some good professional advice here.
Put yourself in that situation, like the more you're gonna be ready when it comes in actual game type, situations. It's like what Kobe said. He said, he never took a shot in a game that he didn't take 1,000 times in practice. You know what I'm saying? The same way football. You should never catch a ball in a game that you ain't caught 1,000 times in practice, or 1,000 times from the jugs, or a route you never ran before. 1,000 times doing the same route. So it's just the preparation. You know what I mean? And
the way this guy's built, he reminds me of Marvin Harrison Sr. Thinking about that, and I mentioned Peyton Manning early, and Marvin Harrison, and watching Harrison catch a slant pass going to the sideline looked as routine as with major coverage on him, playing against a team like the Ravens, for example, in which he did, and perfect coverage on him, and Peyton hitting him right on top of his hands, and Marvin Harrison taking the ball to his chest, catching it, keeping his feet in bounds, out of bounds, first down, catches the ball in bounds, goes out of bounds, first down Colts. Going back to what he said, he said Kobe Bryant never took a shot that he ain't practiced 1,000,000 times. Yeah, that's it. As much as I did not like Kobe as a player, I did admire and respect, even when he was still a player, and I did not like his attitude and selfish ways. He was always preparing. This guy would go to a local gym, get the keys from the janitor. Hey, I'm Kobe Bryant, and practice and shoot all night long after a bad game. I mean, that's the kind of player he was in his preparation. Same thing, Rome Odunze. These players, your DJ Moore, Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice, arguably one of the hardest working players in NFL history. That's from guys like Eddie George, Pro Bowl level running back, was talking about training with Jerry Rice. I mean, I think he played almost 20 years as a wide receiver. I mean, unbelievable. Played from the 80s way up into the early 2000s as a pro. And these guys, they just work on it constantly. They run these routes so you can run these routes in their guys you can run these routes in their sleep. And you watch some of these really high octane offenses. I would say this. My guess is Cooper Kupp, these last 3 years, I know he's been a little banged up. These guys that are just not that big, not that fast, not incredibly tall, but always seem to find the hole in the zone and touch it on the drop of a guy like a Cooper Kupp. You can tell this guy's put a lot of work in. Now it's early. But this Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, they're the future. This is probably just the one and done year for Keenan Allen. He's plus 30, I think 32, 33 years old. He's got some miles on him. He'll be a good third down conversion guy. But this is going to be a very good 1-2 punch here. Williams, he seems to be pressing a little bit. But overall, had a pretty good opening. He only had 3 completions, but 2 of them, one went for the 45 yards there. And he just did miss Rome Odunze. But I guess my point is that this Bears team, I don't know if Eberflus is going to survive past this year because of the expectations. I don't know. They go 8-9 last year. The expectations are this team needs to get to the playoffs because of their talent, offensive line, defensive line, defense overall. They was number 1 against the run last year. And I'm watching this guy that they mentioned here, this 5th round rookie, Austin Booker. Keep that name in mind, Pickles. Compared him to, this was in Hard Knocks last night, to a poor man's Raiders, Max Crosby. Crosby was also like a 5th-round pick. I think he had some off-the-field issues that he had to overcome. But that was Crosby. This guy right here, Austin Booker, 2.5 sacks, good depth guy, already up to 3rd string on the depth chart. Usually guys that are drafted that far down in their rookie year, they're usually 4th string. And he's already considered 3rd string. He may be coming in behind Montez Sweat there, who they got in a trade with the Commanders last year, coming off the edge. I guess I'm saying Ron Poles has done a good job overall. He missed with Chase Claypool a few years ago, but I do think that he's hit with a lot of these offensive linemen in the draft, with these defensive linemen. He's hit with Sweat. He's hit with that extension with Jaylen Brown. He's hit with the trade, big hit. Now he's had a Juan Soto like trade with the Carolina Panthers. Juan Soto, the New York Yankee, who hit 3 home runs yesterday, Pickles. Remember that the Carolina Panthers, who got their first pick overall, remember this year they got the number 1 pick, which was they ended up taking Caleb Williams. But also they got DJ Moore, who is perfect for a young quarterback. And not to mention, they've already re-signed Cole Kmet at tight end there. This is going to be a tough team. Now I can kind of see why they're 4.5-point favorites in the opening game against Tennessee. But judging by what I saw Saturday with the Titans, I still like the Titans to knock them out in that first game up in Chicagoland. But if you're a Bears fan, you're watching this and you got to be pretty ecstatic because the Bears look deep on both sides of the ball, and they've got a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract for 5 years, for 4 years and a 5th-year option there, possibly 6 years of a decent pay on the quarterback there, where they could possibly make a run at a Super Bowl. Possibly. Now, of course, we've got to see the development of Caleb Williams. Are they going to have to? Well, you're going to have to see Caleb Williams' maturation throughout the season. Whether or not do you really want to have his career mature under a Matt Eberflus? I know they brought in Shane Waldron, the former coordinator there that worked with Geno Smith and resurrected his career with the Seattle Seahawks, per se. That's a $64,000 question for Bear fans. But as far as the talent is concerned, the Bears look to be in good shape. And I'm already starting to see this in their preseason game and watching this Hard Knocks here. This was practically a 500 team last year with Justin Fields, who is just looking more and more not like a starting quarterback in this league. And that's a good transition. I read the Steelers today, knock on wood if you're a Steelers fan, that Russell Wilson looks to be past his calf injury he got on July the 24th during conditioning drills, and he looks to play in this preseason game this weekend against the Bills. Okay? And the reason why I say that, a lot of people been ranting and raving and harping about Justin Fields in training camp. And Fields, I wanted to believe in Fields watching him at his last year at Ohio State. And it's just, he's no Stroud. He's just not CJ Stroud. He played last weekend, 5 for 6, 67 yards, and 2 sacks. And he's one of the most athletic quarterbacks in the NFL. And this line is not that bad for the Pittsburgh Steelers. It wasn't that bad last year. According to Pro Football Focus, they was right at 15 to 16, above average there. And this guy's a well of an athlete. He cannot make throws and quick decisions. And now you're seeing that as Steelers fans, 2.5 sacks. And a lot of those, how many starters were in there for the opposition? I would doubt it. Probably wasn't that many. So Fields is not the guy. He's not the guy. He's looking more and more like a backup quarterback to me. Pickle says he's Cam Newton. I don't even know if he's Cam Newton. If he's Cam Newton, you have to put in a system like the Carolina Panthers did for Cam Newton, where he's just throwing a few dump offs and running over the middle all the time and all that stuff, and trying to. And he's already got shoulder injuries and stuff. He's. I don't even know if he's as good as Cam Newton. Cam Newton had more touch on the football than Fields. He got a second contract. He did win the MVP one year. He's got a build like Cam Newton, but I just do not see it. So Pittsburgh fans, if this guy's going to be your quarterback, and thank God, hopefully he won't be your quarterback starting this year. It will be, hopefully, Russell Wilson. Hopefully it'll be Russell Wilson, and Arthur Smith can work with him. Okay, I can see Arthur Smith. It may not be as successful as Ryan Tannehill's run with Arthur Smith, where Tennessee gets to the AFC Championship game against the Kansas City Chiefs ultimately. And mind you, they had an early 10-point lead on the Chiefs. They had a shot to get to the Super Bowl back in 2019 when Derrick Henry was in his prime with Ryan Tannehill. But Tannehill, very similar skill set to a Russell Wilson right now. And they're still trying to possibly get Brandon Ayuk with the Pickens there and Freiermuth, who's going to be the best friend of Wilson. And with that pass rush and that defense, remember they signed Patrick Queen out of Baltimore. They're going to have a good defense, but again with the $64,000 questions here, right? Can you keep Russell Wilson healthy for 17 games? You do not want Justin Fields in there. Justin Fields is a rich man's Malik Willis, and I think Malik Willis is a good guy with Tennessee Titans, but Malik Willis, he can't make really can't make his second read. He's a little bit more patient than he was in year one. He's in year three. Still doesn't look like a starting quarterback in the NFL. I would still put Mason Rudolph ahead of him, in my opinion, on the Titans depth chart, which I think maybe the Steelers probably shouldn't let him walk. He had a good ending there to the season last year. One of the bright spots, remember they got into the playoffs last year. Kenny Pickett was hurt most of the year. Then when he came back, they didn't put him in there. So if Wilson gets hurt, they're not going to make the playoffs. And your Ralph Williams is of the world, and great my man out of Pittsburgh area. They're going to be calling, even though he's extended a few years. They're going to be calling for Mike Tomlin. You know, they're simply going to be calling for Mike Tomlin, and Tomlin, he signed his 3-year deal. Ralph Williams, who I've had on this program before, is probably right. He's saying that he thinks that Tomlin is going to play out these 3 years and retire. That'll give him 20 on the money, and he's going to retire, coach out these 3 years, and he's going to retire. And then finally they can get maybe in the 21st century and get more of an offensive-minded type of head coach. That don't mean they're going to get rid of all the defense, but they're going to sway in more of a consistent, competent offense. But it all starts this particular year. You're not paying Russell Wilson no money. They got him for nothing. He's low risk. You just got to hope and pray that the guy stays healthy. But if you're stuck with Justin Fields for 3 to 5 games, if you're stuck with Justin Fields for 3 to 5 games, I'm not going to pick the Steelers to make the playoffs this year. You know, Tomlin has been canned too. Yeah, should have been canned a couple of years ago. They haven't won a playoff game since 2016. They've lost some. They've had some stinkers. They've played down to their competition. They've been trying to fix their offensive line for 5 years. They keep drafting guys, and they're just underperforming. You know, they're just underperforming there. You can never totally write them off. Like I said, for the last 2 years, he does just enough not to get fired, Pickles. You know? So I guess the whole reason for this rant is hold your breath, Pittsburgh, and hope that Russell Wilson comes back and gets some momentum these next 2 weeks here before the season starts, 3 weeks or whatever, with Arthur Smith. Because they've got some fire. They've got players. They got players on both sides, defense and offense. And, you know, as good as the Ravens were, though, the 1 seed last year, they swept the Ravens last year, you know. So, like I said, they always find ways to get stuff done. Don't let me forget, I've got 2 more stories here I really want to dive into. Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, sticking in the AFC North. Let me take another sip of water here. Now, I'll tell you what, man. If I'm Jamar Chase's agent, you're playing with Joe Burrow. You're in your 4th year. You're not on the 5th-year option. You're in your 4th year, okay? You're coming into your 4th year, okay? Let me make sure I got that clear. Remember, T. Higgins on his 5th-year option. Higgins was already there and in 2020 that they drafted Joe Burrow. They hit the lottery and got Joe Burrow. Let's make that clear. And then in 21, Joe Burrow's teammate there, Jamar Chase, gets drafted. Okay. Yes, he's made the Pro Bowl. I want to say 2 out of 3 times, if I'm not mistaken. 100-catch guy. He is all that, but he is holding in for an extension, you know, and I don't know if Mike Brown's going to do it. This guy, the old man that runs the team there, that owns it, he's dug in. He is dug in. Higgins didn't realize it. Higgins went on and signed his contract for 1 year or whatever, and he's going to go ahead and play. And Chase is holding out right now. And I'll tell you, with Higgins in there and Jermaine Burton, I've mentioned this name before, folks. Jermaine Burton, 3rd-round pick out of Alabama, 3 catches, 3 out of 4 catches, 82 yards, if I'm not mistaken, and a touchdown. And that wasn't even with Joe Burrow throwing him the ball. This guy's had a good camp. Joe Burrow really likes what he sees out of the Alabama player who went up and got the ball. Big play after big play last year with Alabama. Didn't get the hype of the Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle, but Jalen Monroe, not as consistent, not as a consistent player as a Mac Jones or a Tua, anybody of that nature. He's a very raw player, but he was throwing Jermaine Burton the ball last year, and Burton ran a 4.5 at the combine, folks. Kind of fell through the cracks there, but Burrow says he likes what he sees so far in camp with this Jermaine Burton. I've watched Jermaine Burton. I really like this guy. Keep an eye out for him. Then you ask yourself, well, 2 of the 3 teams that really need a receiver, these are the ones we've been reading about and I've been talking about, the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers are 2 big ones there in the AFC North that are willing to give up quite a bit to get another receiver. Would love to have a Jamar Chase, but they're in the same division. Cincinnati's not going to do that. But if you could talk a New England Patriots, say, hey, listen, Brandon Ayuk is not going to sign there. What they might come off that first round pick for Jamar Chase. You know, you could and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but you could probably get a first round, a second round next year, and maybe a first round in like 26 or 27 for Jamar Chase. I think he's that good. Mind you, folks, you know Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson played on that same dominant 2019 LSU team that did not lose a game, that was led by Joe Burrow, you know, and this guy wants $32 to $35 million a year. And I'm thinking to myself, if Burden is half as good, I would listen. You know, ideally, you could probably move both of them and really have and still be okay, as good as Joe Burrow is. You could probably move them both now. Now, that being said, they're still in the Super Bowl hunt. I mean, they're in that window. I've talked about their improvement on defense. They're young players who are coming into their own in the secondary. They're going to be much better. I know they lost Jesse Bates last year. Those young players that they brought in for Bates are supposedly getting better in camp. I've read that through the Athletic. They don't pull any punches when it comes to stuff like that. Lou Morano with him. This Chase Brown Pickles, he's going to be a very good fantasy. He was a good fantasy player last year. The running back, the explosive running back that they had. Okay, you know, but the line is supposed to be much, much better. They've got a player out of Georgia that's having a pretty good camp there as well. Their first round pick on that offensive line. They signed Orlando Brown 2 years ago, who is just absolutely killing it. They're probably going to keep one of these receivers. My guess is they'll keep Jamar Chase. But if they wanted to move Jamar Chase, how many Super Bowls did Tyreek Hill win once he left the Kansas City Chiefs? And how many Super Bowls did the Kansas City Chiefs win once they moved off of Tyreek Hill? Okay, the answer is 0 for Tyreek Hill, not even a playoff win, and 2 Super Bowls for the Chiefs. Okay. Now, ideally, you would have liked to have moved these guys this past year and put some rookies in now. But if push comes to shove, you could get a lot for Jamar Chase. They're probably going to keep him and sign him to the big money because he does have really good chemistry with Joe Burrow. I'm still a fan of, I think it was Colin Cowherd, who's back and forth on this topic. But I want to say he mentioned the fact that Matt Stafford's stats got better when Calvin Johnson left as a quarterback. Patrick Mahomes' stats, his overall quarterback rating was better when Tyreek Hill left. Although, you know, it wasn't easy to score fast. It wasn't easy to score fast without Hill. You know what I'm saying? So you can make a case for if you feel obligated to get the ball to these receivers. Now, they did just lose Tyler Boyd, and I guess Burden's going to play that role as slot. But I think with running that 4-5, I think you can move Jermaine Burden to the outside there and still be okay. I'm a big fan. This guy can put the ball – Burrow can put the ball in a keyhole. He's like Marino of his time, Montana-like player. I mean, I've seen him do it. He was doing back shoulder plays his rookie year. What do you think he can do now? Now, of course, that line has much improved. My guess is they'll get this thing worked out. But if they did trade, now this would be a bad time to do it. That they could still get a lot. They could possibly get a player. What if the Commanders want to trade? The Patriots would give a lot for. Of course, the Patriots don't give a player back. Maybe the Commanders. Maybe they can get a player back from the Commanders. It'd be nice to get a Terry McLaurin or somebody, but I'm not sure if they would want to do that per se. But it's a lot of things are on the table. The longer, because we're kind of getting down to serious time in camp here. You really start to get to that point where you want to have your team set up right now. Okay, we're 2 weeks in, and they're coming up on week 2 in preseason. Week 3 is your main dress rehearsal. There is no week 4, which is Labor Day weekend, and then you're starting for the season. You don't want to be thinking about players holding out in week 3. So we're really getting down to crunch time as far as roster fulfillment. Justin Simmons still hasn't signed yet. He's a safety free agent out of Denver. Ron Tannehill still hasn't signed yet, you know. But there's some good players out there. That needs to be done. Guys like Trent Williams, you want to get him in. Make sure he's in good shape. If you're a 49ers fan, get him taken care of. You want to get that Brandon Ayuk stuff taken care of. You're coming up on that week, you know, where you really want to get some snap and reps in coming into week 3, folks, so you can be ready for the upcoming season. And Pickles said, yeah, just great chemistry there with Jamar Chase. All righty then. Okay, folks, Carlos was asking me the other day about the Olympics and everything. And be honest with you, I just could not get into the Olympics like everybody else. Mike, the Mad Dog, Mad Dog Russo, had a good point. He says people are excited about the basketball team, but they were double-digit favorites in every single game. Although they, almost lost to France and Serbia. They didn't, but they still got the gold medal. They should have played well. So, I was a little bit interested in that. I forgot the woman's name, Simone Biles, the gymnast. That was a pretty good little storyline. But, I watched the open the ceremonies, and they're mocking the Last Supper there with the whole transgender look thing with the Last Supper there. That was distasteful. And then there's a story that's been on my back burner and just really disgusting. The story about the male, the biological male boxer. This was 2 weeks ago. The guy later goes on and wins. He claims to be a woman, but he's not. Somehow, through some kind of technicality in the chromosome thing, this person, the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, let him fight women. And this young woman from Italy, the guy hits her twice, and she checks out. She said, I'm not fighting this man. I don't know if you heard about that, Pickles, but she checks out of it. She says, I'm not fighting it. And I thought to myself, every woman should do that. Every young lady, every father, every mother, since the authorities are not going to do nothing about this, and the powers to be, these politicians are opportunistic and scared, the powers to be, the decision makers are not going to. You got to take matters in your own hands and forfeit and let these transgenders just fight in their own league. You can't even get a good story about this. You can't even get half the media to even categorize this. This is this person, and I say this because Kirk Herbstreit, in an interview with Dan Dockich, the basketball coach, Dan Dockich finally said, "I'm tired of this crap," and I say that because he's with ESPN, and he's got a lot of jobs with ESPN, and I'm trying to get his quotes here. But these football stories broke late, and it's really been underneath. This person's name is Algerian, and it's a man. Let's not get it. This Algerian welterweight, Aman Khalif. Aman Khalif is his name. Went on to win the gold medal, beating up on women. But Kirk Herbstreit doubled down his recent comments that men do not belong in women's sports. The ESPN, this is from New York Post, the ESPN and College Game Day host explained he's not biting his tongue about the top. He's been biting his tongue about the topic for years, and he's done giving a bleep that rhymes with it about it during an appearance on the Outkick's Don't At Me with Dan Dockich, by the way. Thinking that Dan Dockich used to watch Sports Scope because I used to see Dan on the program, and I want to thank Dan for watching the program in the past. He says, "I don't give a bleep, though. I really give a bleep at all, like I'm done giving any bleeps." S is with an S. At all of this, Herbstreit said, when asked about responding to questions about transgender athletes, social media, listen, it's good for people like that. It's good for people like that to finally speak out, And yeah, that guy's playing the victim. The trans boxer was gross, and the trans boxer is trying to sue the media for not calling for online harassment and all this stuff. And I thought to myself, this is the dude that's beating up on women. This is a guy beating up on women about this. And like I said, kudos to and people, this is a right and a wrong thing. I mean, you shouldn't have to be scared to speak out again. I want to say the New England, if I'm not mistaken, the New England Medical Journal, used to describe transgenderism as a medical condition, a mental health condition, and now we're looked at as the people who saying this is crazy for having these men beat up on women. There was an injury a couple of months ago with a basketball player in the high school. There's this big 6'3" guy, and he's taking the ball from these young ladies, and it pulls this woman's nail, and she hurts her finger. It looks like she jammed her finger there. And this guy's huge, and you could tell it's right there. This was in the high school, but like I said, and I don't have kids. I'm not as outraged but if I did have a daughter per se, and she got a broken nose, my niece, for example, and she watches the program, Brittany. I worked with her in countless number of hours, her and her friend, about playing volleyball and helping them serve the ball. And, can you imagine some guy spiking the ball on her over the net and the ball getting through her hands and breaking her nose, per se? That supposedly happened in North Carolina. Might have not been with the volleyball incident, but that happened. And to just say that's not a big deal. Yeah, I mean, it's the bone structures are still the same, And I want to say there was another guy, Asian guy, air quotes, who claimed to be a woman, also won another division in boxing over women. So it's really getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand. And do we have to see a woman get killed on the field before we can say this is ludicrous? If you want a transgender league, go win the transgender league, you know. But let's not have the women getting injured here, fighting against men claiming to be women. So kudos to Curb, and Pickle says her 110% right. You know, he's doing Thursday football on Amazon. He's doing the game day stuff. He's got a lot to lose. But I guess, you know, the guy's just tired of sitting there letting people say it. And, you know, if ESPN called this out time and time and time again, if they put the panels on this and if Fox and put their panels on this and started talking about it with their guys on a regular basis, the powers to be would do something about this, man. They would say, listen, you cannot beat up on our women. You know, Transgender League on Showtime at midnight. I'd watch it, man. I'd probably watch it. Now you're thinking that maybe you call Dana White, that owns the UFC and runs the UFC, have a transgender UFC. I would probably watch it. I've been watching a little bit of UFC here lately. You know, I know it still comes on ESPN. I've watched UFC women beat up on each other. I think it's pretty cool. I know it's not as popular as the men. I'd probably watch a transgender league. I'd watch transgender 3-on-3 tournament. But the big three's been good. I mean, if you want to do that, do it. But corporate America, they should do something about it, man. I mean, I just don't like to see people get injured like that. You know, if it's your daughter or little sister or something, it's just not right, man. And I really commend. I think that they should make a medal for that Italian boxer, the way she checked out of that boxing match. I think that was courageous for what she did against this. So, again, kudos, Kirk Street. We're at 57 minutes. I was going to get into the Hurricanes football preview. I'll probably get into that next week. Well, I know one thing. I'm going to be talking about the 12-team playoff next week, and I'm going to give you my prediction. I'm going to be working on this Sunday and then Monday before I do my cuts, and I'll talk a little bit about it on Tuesday, and then Wednesday of next week, I'll give you my predictions for the college football playoff here. Now, on the 24th, the Florida State will be playing somebody. It won't be a big game, but they're going to play somebody on the 24th. So I'm going to try to go ahead and just get it out of the way. I will say this, in the college game, Texas has gotten 2 running backs that, if I'm not mistaken, I know one's done for the year, and I believe the other one is. The other one's got hurt. So I don't know how far Texas is going to go now. I know they're deep, but, man, I mean, you get them kind of injuries just back to back like that. They're scrambling right now. And now they're in the SEC. They got to play Georgia in October. I don't know if I'm going to pick Texas to win the national championship. It's going to be tough. I'm really trying to see if I can find. I'm just looking right here, right now, Pickles. SMU was 11-3 last year. They got 15 starters coming back. I mean, the college game is going to be off the hook this year. I think the Hurricanes are going to do something, but I have to study them and read them. So I'm going to give you a Hurricane preview one day next week. Hopefully tomorrow, the Mad New Yorker will be on, and me and him will talk about this week's biggest stories here in the wide world of sports here. If you like the show, folks, please share the show here. That's a good idea, Pickles. Transgender League on Showtime at midnight. I probably would watch that. Pickles thinks it'll be better than NFL. There's so many good teams, it may well be. Anyways, folks, I'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same place, here on the Real Sports Scope.